Welcome to Modern Dynasty, where we help you navigate the complex world of fantasy, families, and houses. Today, we're going to do a rookie mock draft. Now, this mock draft is just based on our feelings and not any particular mock by an expert. So, let's get into it.
All right, Raymond. Well, I'm going to offer you up the first overall pick. I feel like it'd only be fair as the voice of the modern dynasty show here to give you the number one. So, who you taking?
Um, I'm going to go with the obvious choice here and take Bijan Robinson. You
Bijan
know,
Robinson.
there's been some recent discussion with A Rich, being the ceiling pick at the 101. But, if you got the 101 and you have to make it, I'm going with the tried and true.
No, I mean, I think it's a smart pick. I think it's the safe play. I think he's going to get the draft capital. I mean, he went out and showed the combine. I think you're looking at an elite ceiling for at least 2 to 3 years. We're playing a 2 to 3 year window. You had the best player on the board. I think it's a smart pick.
All right.
All right, with my second overall pick, I'm actually. I know that AR has really been skyrocketing up the draft boards, but I think at this point, I'm still going to go with the safer play, I think, that still has a high ceiling, and I'm going to pick CJ Stroud.
Excellent. Yeah, I think he has the potential to be the most NFL ready quarterback, the most plug and play. You know, if he's going to land in Carolina, it might muddy things up. It's not as sexy as that Indy or other landing spot where he would have a better team around him. But I still think he can make an impact there.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about, the elite accuracy and processing ability. I mean, he showed at the combine, he's got the size, he has the arm strength, he has the accuracy. And, he may not have shown a huge rushing ceiling in college, but I mean, in those playoff games, he's definitely showed the mobility and the tactical scrambling that it takes to be a successful quarterback at the next level for both NFL and fantasy. And so I think from a longevity standpoint, not only a 3 year window, he's going to get the opportunity to start right away, which is huge. With Anthony Richardson, I don't know. They might want to develop him for a year or two behind a more experienced quarterback. And at this point, give it to me right now. I want Stroud.
Yeah, I think it's a good pick. All right. At the 103, I'm going to go with Bryce Young. I'm really happy about his talent. I think he's got a great ability to extend the play and just kind of make something out of nothing on a level that none of the other quarterbacks can do in this class. And so, really, the only concern about him is his height, and it's not something that can't be overcome. It's just he won't have the physical tools that some of these other guys have.
Yeah, no, I mean, I totally agree. I still have Bryce Young as my QB2 in this class. I think that the only thing that hurt him was not throwing at the combine. I think if he goes out there and throws the combine, it's still 1, 2, 3. With between Stroud, Young, and Richardson. Um, but he chose not to. That's fine. He'll throw at the pro day and his environment with his wide receivers. At the end of the day, I mean, if you really want to showcase your talents, you want to do it with your guys and your environment and your stadium where you're comfortable and you know exactly what's going on. Props to C.J. Stroud and Anthony Richardson and Will Levis to go out there and throw to guys they've never thrown a football before in their life.
Yeah,
But you know, I don't blame him. He was the 101 for a lot of consensus mock drafts pre combine, and I don't. He went and showed that he's over 200 pounds and hits the height that we were expecting. So I don't
Yeah.
see why he'd move down the board in people's rankings.
Yeah, like that's a good point. You don't want to double count people when we expected them to be that size and then they go in and they are that size. It's not a knock against them, it's what we expected.
Exactly. That takes me to the 104, and I mean, talk about him. The guy was a combine machine. Guy breaking records out there. Running in the 4.5s at his weight and his height. I mean, it's pretty insane. You're talking about elite fantasy ceiling. Yeah, look no further than Anthony Richardson. But the reason I didn't take him, as the 101, which you're starting to hear more, in 102, I think people had him anywhere from the 104 to the 109 pre combine. Some people were scared, some people believed in him. Well, he went out and proved everything that we thought he was going to do. And all of a sudden, we moved him up from where we thought his ceiling was to a new ceiling. And I don't think that should be a new ceiling created. All he did was show exactly what we hoped he would do and prove that he is the QB3 in this class at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, there is some scary stuff there with, you know, the lack of experience. He only really started one full year and a few games the year before. And then also, the completion percentage being around 55%, that's scary. But one thing that I do really like about this guy is he's got one of the highest big play percentages out of any of the quarterbacks. And it's over 5%. If a NFL team can take advantage of that and bump that up to 10 or 12%, you're telling me out of every 10 times this guy throws the ball, you're going to get a big play of 50 yards or more. Yeah, I'm in. And you put the ability that he has on the ground with the ball in his hands on top of that, and we're talking about an insane ceiling. So yeah, you gotta love the pick.
Yeah, for sure. No. All
All
right,
right.
you're on 105.
All right. So with those guys off the board, I'm going to my guy, Jackson Smith and Jigba.
Nice, nice.
Yeah, I think with the way that we're valuing wide receivers in the leagues now, you gotta boost him up, being the only really talented guy in this draft. He showed some real explosiveness in the short area with his three cone drill and stuff. So I'm not really scared. I'm not gonna take into account too much what Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave said, how he's better than them. I think that they're really good teammates for saying that, but a lot of people have been propping him up on that alone. But I think what he did as a sophomore really impressed me, and it's just the injury last year that's the only thing that gives you some hangups. But I still think he's the top wide receiver in this class.
Yeah, yeah, no, I totally agree. I mean, that's elite athleticism in a three cone drill. Obviously, I'm gonna give him already an A plus in the intelligence department because the dude knew what he was good at, and he went out and showcased his elite, agility. He knows he doesn't have that straight line speed, but he also knows that he doesn't need it. He can win it in his own way. And I think that the big part of that quote that was really misleading for a lot of people is people just kind of generalized the statement as he was the best wide receiver out of the three of them, where the question was asked who was the most athletic, and JSN is the most athletic of the three of them. Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave are better wide receivers. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Just tacticians and built for the NFL, the new NFL of speed and route running. Um, where JSN, he's more of maybe, I could see him in that Juju, Amon Ra type big slot receiver. They're not really going to break huge plays, but great hands, consistent receiver, can break tackles. Yeah, no, I think he's a really good play there at the 105.
Awesome.
For me at the 106, I'm gonna go back to the quarterback position. Guy that people love him or hate him. I'm gonna take another ceiling here with Will Levis. He's got top 10 draft capital coming here in the near future. Um, he has the big arm. He's got the height. He's got the weight. He's shown athleticism, mobility. I mean, there's nothing to like hate on about this guy if you just brought him out of a mold.
Mm-hmm.
The interceptions are scary, but not great. It could be a lot of different reasons for that. We've seen a lot of, you're looking at Richardson to improve his game as well. Same thing with Levis. I mean, he improves, you know, gets rid of some of those interceptions, which that can be coached out. It seems like there's a lot more coaches in the NFL that are more about developing their players than maybe some of the coaches 10 years ago that were just grinding these guys in practice and it's their way or free agency or they're getting
Yeah.
cut. So there's a lot more coaches and philosophical minds in the coaching game now that are more interpersonal with their players. And I think he gets the right system. He's got elite ceiling. You know and I think at the 106, that's I'm fine taking a risk on a guy that has maybe a Justin Herbert level ceiling.
Yeah. I heard somebody recently make the comp for Will Levis as Carson Wentz, and I felt like they said it in kind of a negative way. But if you're telling me Will Levis could be Carson Wentz, like he had an NFL MVP season, and like there's going to be a sell window if he has a similar career arc to Carson Wentz. Like, give me that, and let's not get too attached. Let's sell him high when he goes up in value.
Yeah, I mean, would you be surprised at all if some point mid-season Richardson's not playing and Levis is throwing for 4 touchdowns in a game that you might be able to flip one for the other?
Right?
Like, I mean, I think that's very
That'd
viable
be
because I think that Levis probably has a clear path to starting quicker. I just don't see a world where they go out and throw Richardson in week 1 after 19 starts in his college career. That's not enough. That's not smart for the franchise to throw a guy like that into the NFL.
and you're wasting him if you ruin him by putting him in too early.
Yeah.
All right, so at the 107, I'm going to go with Jameer Gibbs.
Ibze.
Yeah, he's clearly the back with the most upside at this point in the draft, and he feels like an absolute steal here.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think Gibbs is, could be a very close 1B to Bijan Robinson, within the next year or two. Especially Gibbs isn't going to go out there and get a 70%, backfield share. But he is going to hopefully be in that 45 to 55% range. Maybe get the high value touches, work into the 2 minute drills. That's where you want your running backs in today's NFL again.
Yeah,
I think that Kamara skill set. You look back on fantasy in the past 7 years. Honestly, Kamara's the back you wanted. You love the years you got from CMC. You love the rookie year Barkley. You love some JT here and there. But Kamara every year just top 5, 7, finishing as RB1 at one of those years. I mean, that's the running back you wanted this whole time.
awesome.
All right. So this I think is where we start looking at a tier break for me. Um, I do like still a lot of these wide receivers that are on the board. I think several of them are going to get first round draft capital. I think there's some running backs that could easily shoot up into this 8 spot. But for me, I'm going to go with Quentin Johnston.
Hmm.
I think that he was projected to come out at 6'4", this monster athlete, DK Metcalf, and he's came in a little shorter. He came in at 6'2", still ran a quick 40, showed a great vertical ability to go up and hand catch that. There's a great highlight of him jumping up and hands catching that ball. Like that's awesome. That's what you want to see. And honestly, I think the 6'2" body type puts him in a way better bucket of players that actually makes him more likely to break out in the NFL versus that 6'4" clasher. It's a tough position nowadays. So I like Quentin Johnson there at 108.
Yeah, I was a little scared of Quentin Johnson giving me like Mike Williams vibes, but like the smaller size really alleviated those concerns. And, you know, I think he has potential to be like an explosive receiver, you know?
Yeah, definitely. He has the alpha potential.
Yeah. All right. So next up at the 109 here, I'm going with Zach Charbonnet. And that's somebody who I just think is the most likely to lock down a starting gig. You know, we could see this guy land in a premium spot like Miami or something. Like that'll really boost his value, and he's going to be a solid running back for the next 2 to 3 years. And I think that's what you're happy to get at this point in the first round.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Zach Charbonnet seems to be fairly entrenched for a lot of people in that RB3 spot. Um, Personally, a guy that I don't love, but I do see the three down skill set that he does offer up. But I just, I personally, I don't think that I'm going Charbonnet quite yet. Um, but I don't blame you. It seems like he's gonna get that draft capital. He lands in a Miami. He's might even shoot up a little bit higher than that. So
Yeah, for me at this point, just not knowing the draft capital on the receivers, it's a floor pick for me because I know he's going to be worth like nearly that in the future. You're going to be able to get a late first, early second for him if he locks down that like 3 down role.
yeah, yeah, there's definitely a Charbonnet fan club out there
Yeah,
that are gonna be willing to take a guy like that.
yeah,
For me, at the 110, I don't care. This guy weighed in tiny, and
okay,
I love the tape, man. Like tiny guys work out just fine in today's NFL. Tell some of these other wide receivers that they can't perform. We've got Devontae Smith out here, crushing, looking like a mini alpha. Was it Slim Batman and Thick Batman that they have? Like there's no
fast
Robin.
Batman.
Right, right. I think Jordan Addison has that potential. I don't think the teams are going to be scared off from his combine scores. I think that he's put enough on tape in the college game. I think that there's a possibility. He transferred to USC this year in the transfer portal. It takes some time to get acclimated to a new system, and you have an elite quarterback there. It's just like Patrick Mahomes. Like, when do you see him producing top 12 fantasy wide receivers on his roster outside of Tyreek Hill, who's,
Yeah,
I mean, that's a different animal. Like, he's going to be a top 12 receiver on like the Houston Texans. It doesn't matter. Um, but like, Mahomes spreads the ball out to so many people. I think it's the same thing that Caleb Williams does there, and Addison still put on some great highlights throughout.
for me, the dream scenario with Addison is if the teams were just a little scared of what he weighed in at, and if he falls to 32 with the Pittsburgh Steelers and gets reunited with his boy Kenny Pickett, like I could see that being a dream scenario. I could see a lot of places where he lands and being like really good, but that's the one scenario where if he lands there, I'm all in. I'm putting him back up the board right where he was, and
Yeah,
I'm
I
in.
mean, put Chargers with Justin Herbert. I think that could be another like potential landing
Yeah,
spot. You
it's a
know,
little cloudier there. It's not as clear of a path to just like becoming the wide receiver two there, but
Sure, sure. Yeah, I know they did rework Mike Williams and Keenan Allen's contracts, but I think that also gives them an out, and they're not going to keep paying those guys once they pay Justin Herbert the big contract. They need that rookie wide receiver deal coming in to help save some cap space.
All right. All
All
right.
right.
So right after this, I swore weeks ago I was swearing I would never do this, and here I am picking Jalen Hyatt at the 111. I was kind of scared, just thinking that since he's going to be a low target, like boomer bust type guy, that you know, it was just too risky of a play. But I do think like with the way he hands catches and like you know, he's got some ability to separate that I think is going to translate to the NFL.
Yeah, yeah, no, definitely. I mean, he's a burner. He didn't show that elite speed at the combine, but man, game tape don't lie. And I am curious once we see some of like his reception perception come in with like Matt Waldman, to see like how his route wins, because I do know that it seems to be he is wide open half the time. Like most of his targets are zero contested catches, which is that him. Is that on him burning these guys, or is that schemed up that way? So I am kind of curious on how that comes in. But overall, like I agree with you. I think 111, you're fine taking a Jalen Hat right there. I'm going to take another guy that here, the 112, going back to the receiver pool, seems to be a lot of NFL GMs talking very highly about this player, wanting, that skill set. We had the original pre-combine hype tapes of the comparisons to Antonio Brown. I'm going to go
Mhm.
Zay Flowers. I think that the 112. I mean, once again, we're shooting for upside here.
Yeah,
Ideally, if you had this pick and you held on to it, you're a championship team. So I'm going to take and add a Zay Flowers with a high ceiling to a contending roster, and let's go.
yeah. All right. All right, let's try to pick it up the pace a little bit for the second round. Do you think we'll go maybe just a minute or so for each one?
Sure.
All right. So here, I think we've gotten all of the receivers that I feel super comfortable about off the board. So I think it's time to start looking at these running backs that are going to have like late day two, early day three draft capital, and I'm going to take Kendra Miller here.
Ah, dang. That's what I wanted.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
No.
like I like
Yeah.
that stack with Bijan and Kentre. Like that looks nice.
Right, right. Yeah, no, I think there's a good chance that Kendra Miller ends up as the RB2 in this class, you know, after a year. He's got a lot of those Javante Williams type vibes to me. And, him not running and him not playing in the championship game has kind of suppressed his value. He played with TCU in the championship game, and there's maybe a whole different vibe on Kendra. Um, cool. So for me at the second pick, uh, jeez, it's tough. These running backs, there's just so many of them. I think there's one left. I think has the elite kind of possible ceiling is Tajay Spears. I think he's got that pass catching. I think he's got between the tackles. He's got the skill set. Once again, the Kamara type guy that I'm searching for in my dynasty rosters.
Yeah, if he hits, it's gonna be dynamite. That's all you can say about that.
Hmm.
And that's at that pick, like, yeah, I'm happy to take him. All right. So I think I'm also gonna look at the running backs here, and I'm going Sean Tucker. I
Okay.
know he came in a little shorter than we thought, and we didn't get to see him perform at the combine, but I'm gonna go with what he put on tape. And a while ago we were looking at him as what is this guy the second or third best running back in this class?
Hmm.
So I'm happy to take him here at RB6.
Yeah, it was a bummer we didn't see him run at the combine. I know that we were supposed to see, maybe a sub 4 or 4, but anywhere in the 4.4s would have been fine for him. Yeah, no, I'm excited. I'm curious to see what the NFL says.
Yeah.
So um, for me, I'm gonna go to. I mean, it seems like we have a deep class here at this position, but a guy that people got a little bit scared about and kind of maybe moved down some boards is Michael Mayer. Consensus tight end one going into the combine. They were worried about his RAS score and how he's going to perform. He actually goes out and runs faster than what we expected, and like now we're moving him down the boards. Like I don't get it. So I'm going to take Michael Mayer here at the 2-4.
Yeah, I think this is a great spot for him. I do think taking him in the first round is not a great idea, just with the way that tight ends typically pan out in fantasy. I think that, if you get him in the second round, it's a lot more likely that you're going to get a value.
Yeah, there's a lot of tight ends you could buy for the 110 that you feel that are performing right now. I mean, you could probably go out to, depending upon who owns Travis Kelsey, and probably just go buy that best tight end in the NFL right now for the 110.
Yeah, and they'd be happy to do it. And
Yep.
all right, so I'm actually going to go Hendon Hooker right here. I think
Ooh.
that he's the guy that has the most upside left on the board here. We could see him go late in day one or, sometime in day two and be pretty happy about his draft capital. We're at a point where I'm pretty sure there's going to be like one more team needing a quarterback than we have quarterbacks available so far. So I think that there's a chance that he slots in as like a 2, 3 year starter. And there's a good possibility that he might be one of the most NFL ready guys on day one.
Yeah, yeah. No, I totally agree. I think that, you know, uh, Hendon Hooker and Jalen Hyatt are interesting. One of those guys is good. That's all I know.
One, yeah,
You
one
know,
of them.
yep, one of those guys is really good. And man, Hooker seems to have the confidence too, man. Like, he seems to be recovering from this injury, going to be ready for OTAs. Like, man, Hooker was a guy that was looking at like one of the best quarterbacks in college football. I don't care how old he is. Once again, we're talking about quarterbacks. It really doesn't matter, and we're talking about 3 year windows. If you give me a guy who's 25 to 28, that's fine. And if he's actually really good, he's gonna play till he's 35. like, you
Yeah,
know,
let's go.
10 year window. That's fine. All right, here at the 2-6. Ugh. This is once again where I feel like there's another tier break. Um,
I feel like there's one more guy that might sneak into this tier.
Yeah, I think for me, there's a running back I like. There's Roshan Johnson. Um, you know, I know he didn't evidently put up some huge numbers. Once again, sharing the backfield with the man himself, Honey Bijan. But man, he's going to get on the field. He's going to definitely get those third down worked. He looked awesome in pass protection. Anytime through like the Senior Bowl practices that he was doing, he was just blowing up guys. And I know the NFL values that player. They picked up the turd himself, Kyron Williams, last year based on his pass protection.
Yeah.
So give me a running back that can actually run and is actually has the 3 down skill set. Give me
Yeah,
Roshan.
yeah, I do think the lazy comparison is he's Brian Robinson. I think he's Brian Robinson that can pass protect better and do special teams better. So he's like more solidified on whatever team he lands on.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You can say even if you're getting like some Tyler Algier type performances, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. All right. I think here I'm gonna shoot for upside on the tight end, and I'm going Musgrave. I'm going with the NFL lineage. I'm going with the Raz monster, and just taking a swing here.
Nice. All right. Yeah, this man, I'm excited about this tight end pool here. Usually, I feel like a lot of people were expecting to throw a lot of darts on just this whole running back pool here in the second round, and now people are starting to think that maybe they could just throw a bunch of darts at tight end here, which is also going to be a good, buy at them thirds, people. It's going
Yeah,
to be value deep into this draft. People are going to fall in love with a lot of prospects.
Yeah, it's not going to be top end value, but you're going to have weekly starters
Yeah,
like sliding down into the third round. It's just going to be picking them out this
this is a
draft.
depth year for sure.
Yeah.
All right, so once again, I'm going to go back to the ceiling. Once again, did not show great at the combine, but
Hmm.
has shown the production. We were excited about this guy as a prospect. He was originally looked at some people's wide receiver one in the class. That gives me a lot of those kind of George Pickens vibes, where like this is probably where he would have went last year if there were four capable quarterbacks in the first round, and a couple extra running backs. I feel like this is probably where you're looking at a George Pickens. So I'll take the swing of Keyshawn Booty. I guess he's Booty now.
Booty
He's
boy.
Booty until he proves that he's Booty again.
Yeah. All right, I like it. Okay, so I'm going to follow it up with another receiver that slightly underperformed at the combine, and I'm going with Josh Downs. I think he's somebody who we kind of envisioned being further up in the board earlier in the process. And I just think looking at the profile, he's not somebody who we're super excited about taking with like a first round pick. But I think when he falls to this point, we can be really excited about the upside that this guy's going to have. Like,
Yep, no, I totally agree. All right. With my next pick here, I'm going Speedster. Probably a lot of people are surprised that he even fell this far.
yeah,
But Devon A. Chain, he was definitely the best back in his backfield the past 2 years. Doesn't matter how tall he is. I think NFL teams are infatuated with speed. So
yeah.
he's gonna get that James Cook late second, maybe even early mid second draft capital. A team's gonna throw a dart on him.
Yeah, I think this guy could be really special. If you didn't pick him here, I was about to pick him with my next pick.
Yeah, he has a skill set that's just different from all these other running backs. Like these running backs are all very unique, but can be kind of lumped into individual categories. Where A Chain is still his very own individual running back.
Yeah. All right. With this next pick, I'm going to go ahead and take Denzel Mims.
Ah, nice, nice, Mimsy.
Yeah, I think he's going to be a great value here. I think that he kind of got Spencer rattled a little bit, and kind of messed with some of his stats along the way. I think this is a guy who could have been a little bit further up the board if situations were a little bit better for him along the way. But
Yep. Yeah. Same with Booty. He had a lot of hype going into this year. He was a Devi darling. I think that once again, we're all these are all dart throws at this point. I mean, if you're searching for floor at the end of the second round, then what are you doing here? Like you got to search for some of these ceiling plays. I think that's just your best bets. All right. Do you want to just wrap it up here with the second round, or do you want to go a third round here?
I think that this is going to be a good stopping point for
Cool.
us.
Yeah, I agree. I think with my last pick here at the 212, I'm going to take the monster, Darnell Washington.
Woo! All right.
Oh, jeez. I mean, I'm sold. I've never seen a monster like that. Like the blocking drills, the passing drills, like everything he did at his size was an anomaly. So once again, we're talking about ceilings to the position, like a Robert Gronkowski level dominator at the position. Man, give me some Darnell Washington and see what happens.
Dude, I think that this guy is going to have a little bit of DK Metcalf syndrome where people are like, oh, he's just super big and athletic. Like, how's that going to work out? And like, they're almost going to like fault him for how big and athletic he is. And like, I think it's an absolute steal. Like, he might not be a guy that's like doing much other than blocking in his first year. I could see him snagging a few tight end or touchdowns, but like he's gonna develop into like a really clutch. You know, imagine Antonio Gates or whatever. You know, but faster and bigger.
Yeah, I mean, I think that he was just a giant of a player who was probably really great at blocking.
Yeah.
And, obviously we all know the guy that's coming out next year that he played with, Brock Bowers. I
Hmm.
mean, you think he probably picked up some stuff from Brock, and he didn't have to showcase it, but it's already shows to me that he's like willing to learn, absorb the information that's around him, whether they want him to be more blocking tight end or if they able to use him a little bit more, uh, you know, outside a little bit or stretch him out the seams. Like there's gonna be uses for Mr. Darnell.
Yeah, and I think if we were doing a tight end premium mock draft, that some of these tight ends could even move up the board further ahead of some of these kind of more dart throwy running backs that we took. Um, but like for a super flex format like this, I like this spot a lot.
Yeah, for sure.
All right.
Awesome. Well, good show, Mr. Ramo. I appreciate coming on and doing the rookie mock draft here. I think our next video we're going to be releasing some running back and wide receiver tiers. So,
Yeah.
looking forward to doing some more videos with you.
Yep. Tune in for the tiers.
Awesome.
All
Catch ya.
right. Have a good one.